welcome back. If you're looking for the Mobility Garage, you found it. Here's what we got going on today. I want you to just embrace a little bit of a different concept. When we look at kind of opposite ends of the joint, when we look at range of motion, it's easy to think, hey, I understand the kind of relationship between anterior chain musculature, posterior chain musculature. That makes sense, front and back. We don't often think of it as kind of the opposite positions of the joint, where the joint kind of goes from tight position into a tight position. In the leg, for example, that closed pack position is in flexion and external rotation. That tightens me up. But in extension, it's leg behind and in internal rotation. If you tend to spend a bunch of time sitting, and then you have to kind of default into this external rotated position, you can end up kind of biasing and getting short into this corner. The opposite corner is then going to probably be restricted because you spent so much time on this side. It's possible to be missing space on this side, which is the internal rotation and extension. Traditionally, we've kind of tried to work on internal rotation. Roop did one kneeling, but when we're on the couch stretch even, it's really difficult, we find, to kind of hit that internal rotation corner. I've been working on this, solving this problem, because I have this big nasty bit. As a professional kayaker, I sat externally rotated forever, and then as a grad student, I was just basically a slave to sitting. Back on the airplane, I'm like, oh man, I'm always getting this little bit of capsule junk that feels tight. So here's what I've come up with. We're going to go ahead and work on similar positioning as you've seen before. The band is going to go in that hip crease, or in that kind of gluteal fold, right? And then what's going to happen, this is your ghoulie, what's going to happen is, I'm going to internally rotate my leg. I'm using this ball to kind of block it. And so as the femur rotates internally, now I'm in my traditional setup, but I've got this really big wind up of internal rotation first, and then I can squeeze my butt and apply the pressure. And what you'll find is that you'll really access this kind of flexor wad in a real significant way. Many of the internal rotation stretches we do kind of end up capturing some of that posterior musculature, but this corner is really the tight corner. So what you're going to find is that as you hit this thing, because normally we have the leg straight and we're over here, it does not hit the same thing. It's being internally rotated and then really pressing into that corner. If you tie in the hip here, what you'll find is that it hits this area of the IT band, of the TFL, of this kind of glute-me, glute-min concept really well. So let's go ahead, and I want you to really smoke this today. Let's get 3 minutes each side minimum on this. Since we're working on this position and extension, usually we're running and posting, and what we can see is the anterior tib getting tight. This compartment here also gets really tight. We don't think about it very often, but most of the time, if you just spend some time under the desk or farting around pressing that position, you'll find that that tissue is really tight. An easy way to also get in there is to go ahead and kneel, and then go ahead and lean back on one of those sides. You're going to be like, oh, I had no idea I was so tight. And just like playing gasso breako with your hamstrings or quads or interior and posterior, if your calves are tight, your anterior compartment's working hard, or if your anterior compartment's hard, your calves are working tight. So this is an easy way to get in there. This is a ball made by Shiatsu Bag. I think it's basically like a Nerf bag, shiatsubag.com Nerf ball. A little bit softer than the lacrosse ball, and it's kind of malleable, and man, you can palpate back and forth. You may be able to get the double lacrosse ball in here. It's probably pretty vicious in some of this anterior bits. It fits really well, but if you spend a few minutes in here just dinking around with the front of your calf tay, you're going to definitely be like, oh Lord, that's ugly. I had no idea. That's the homework. We'll see you guys tomorrow.